Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. What I wanted to do is just come on and do a quick little refresher for all the tenses that we've learned so far because I think that it's important that we have that access as we move forward. So here we go for Passé Composé. So it's our first tense that we ever learned. So again, we have all of our subjects. I'll just write those in here. On, il, en, nous, vous, and il, en, pluriel. So remember that for Passé Composé, our structure is as follows. So I'll put the structure in red here. Structure is subject plus your avoir conjugations plus the past participle. Okay, so first thing that we do is take a look at what our avoir is for each of these verbs. So for each of these subjects, sorry. So for je, it becomes j'ai, tu as, il and elle a or on a, nous avons, vous avez, and il and elle ont. Okay, so that's our avoir. Then we talk about past participles. That's what we're talking about, the er, ir, or re verb endings, okay? So remember, when we have these verbs, this for our regular verbs, we'll go into our irregular in a second. When we have er endings, we take off the er and we replace it with an e avec accent aigu. When we have ir endings, we take off the ir and replace it with an I, so really just take off the r. And then for re endings, we take off the re and we replace it with a u. Okay, so we can have examples such as parler. So we j'ai parlé, which is I have spoken with Miss Viduva. J'ai fini. I have finished my exam. J'ai vendu. I sold or I have sold my iPad, something like that. Okay? So these are the regular structures that you can look at here. So for example, let's do another example for each of them that is not with je. So let's take a look at, let's do nous. So another common er verb is danser. Let's say we danced. Nous avons dansé. So we have the er verb, we take off the r and we replace it with just the e avec accent aigu. So we have danced last night, or had danced last night. Okay. For ir, let's talk about the verb choisir, to choose. Let's use vous. Vous, then we use our avoir here. Vous avez choisi. Okay, you had chosen this flavor of ice cream yesterday, for example. Okay, and then for another re verb, we could talk about the word pendu, which is to hang. So we could talk about like hanging flowers, for example. So we can say elle. We could look back over here and say, okay, the avoir for elle is a. So elle a pendu des fleurs hier. Okay, so she hung flowers yesterday. All right, so that's our good passé composé review. For irregular verbs for passé composé, let's look at those ones as well. So we can do those in blue. Irregular verbs, so again, our 7 most common, we have avoir. These are all for past participles, okay? So irregular past participles. So avoir, être, aller, faire, prendre, mettre, and devoir. Okay, so look at these ones. So avoir turns into eu. Remember, it's that weird one. So j'ai eu. I had something. So we can say even j'ai eu une pensée. I had a thought. Être turns into été. So these ones, again, don't follow the same structures as the er, re, and re that we see above. So I had been somewhere, or I had been a teacher. I was a teacher. Aller is the same. It follows the same structure for this tense. faire turns into fait. So j'ai fait, I made something. Prendre is pris. J'ai pris, I took something. And remember, these ones all work for anything that ends in prendre. So like comprendre, stuff like that as well, right? Apprendre, so appris, compris, those are the same endings there. So as long as it has a prendre in it, it's going to follow that same pris ending. Mettre turns into me. So j'ai mis, I put blah, blah, blah. And then devoir turns into do. Okay, so j'ai dû, I had to do something. Okay, so there is your Passé Composé review in a nutshell. And let's also not forget about Dr. Mrs. Veratram verbs with Passé Composé. I know that I almost did. So this is where we use Passé Composé with être, so where our structure changes a little bit. Dr. Mrs. Vandertramp. Okay. So this is where our structure changes a little bit because instead of using avoir, we now use être as our auxiliary verb. So our structure becomes as follows. So subject, so same as always, plus être, auxiliary or conjugation, plus the past participle. Okay, so this is why we call this list the Dr. Mrs. Veratramp list, because that's just a little limerick for how to remember them. But we only use être with these verbs here that are present. Okay, so we don't use être as an auxiliary with any other verb, tense and passé composé. We only use it with these following past participles. So what are these past participles, we ask here? So let's write them all out here. Actually, let's start with our subject so that we know how to conjugate everything. Je, tu, il, and elle. Nous, vous, il, and elle pluriel. So, je suis, tu es, il and elle est. Nous sommes, vous êtes, and il and elle sont. Okay, so those are the auxiliaries that you're going to put before your past participles. So, what are Dr. Mrs. Veratram verbs, we ask ourselves? Let's go through. Mrs. Vandertramp. Oops. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through all of them, and I'm also going to give you the conjugations for what they look like too afterwards. So, D is devenir. Most of them actually follow, most of them actually follow the same structure as per usual IR, RE, or RE endings, but there are a few exceptions. So I'll just conjugate them all for you as we go along. So devenir is one of the exceptions here. Remember, for these ones as well, we have to add RE or S, depending if it's feminine, if it's plural. So E if it's feminine, S if it's plural, E and S if it's feminine and plural, okay? So again, look at the context of who's writing it for your exams. It'll be written from your own context. So if you're a female and you're writing an exam, and you're saying, for example, je suis allée, I have gone to, or I have been here, then you're going to write je suis allée with an extra E at the end of allée, okay? So again, devenir could have an E or it could have an S. Don't include them in the brackets. Only include them if it's or not, if that's called for. Mourir, and it's mort, E or S. Then we have here for R, we've got rentrer. This is actually the same here, rentrer, with an E or an S if it's called for. Sortir, again, this is the same as per IR endings, with an E or an S if it's called for. Venir here. This one's a little bit different. Venu with an E or an S if it's called for. So pay attention to that as well. Aller is a good one here. This again follows the ER endings. Oh my gosh, sorry, my dad is totally just having a loud conversation in the background. Naître, remember this is a tricky one. This is the one to be born, okay? Naître, so naître totally changes, and then you add an E or an S if you were a girl, or if it's plural, or if it's feminine plural. Then we have descendre, and that turns into, descendu, again with an E or an S at the end. Then we have entrer, and that one stays the same, but again with an E or an S at the end, depending on the gender and the amount of people that were there. Then we have here, you have lots of ERs to keep, or lots of R verbs to keep track of. This one stays the same here, retourner, tomber. So that one stays the same here as well for ER verbs. There's with an E or with an S at the end. Then our last R verb is rester. This one stays the same, again with an E or an S if it's called for. Then we have arriver, and that one stays the same in terms of conjugation as well. Oops, sorry, my apologies. But again with an E or an S if it's called for. Monter, if it's called for the E or the S, but otherwise it stays the same in conjugations. And S, and then partir, okay? This one stays the same as per IR conjugations. Partir, with an E or with an S, okay? So those are your examples there. Let's do a couple together so we know sort of what this looks like in a larger scope here. So let's use the verb, let's use the tricky ones, the ones that are not the same. So devenir is not the same conjugation. Revenir is not the same conjugation. Mourir is not the same conjugation. Venir and naître, okay? So those are the ones that differ from the IR, RE, and ER regular verb endings, okay? So let's use those ones for our examples. So for example, let's talk about elle devenue. So she wanted to become, she became something. So we could talk about even me. If you're talking about me and from my past, you can say elle est devenue enseignante. So she became a teacher, okay? Or she did become a teacher. So we have our first thing as our subject. Then we take a look at, okay, we're talking about Miss Vaduva or elle. So we look at elle here. We have to have our next auxiliary for être is a. And then our past participle, plus we take a look at some endings, okay? So it's like a 4-step process. So elle, we know the next one is a. Then we're talking about devenir here. So, okay, we say, okay, devenue is the next one. Elle est devenue, blah, 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 blah. Now, because we're talking about elle here, we have to also take a look and say, okay, that's feminine, so we have to add an extra E onto the end. So it's elle est devenue. That is the correct conjugation for that, okay? Let's take a look at revenir. Revenir is to come back or to return somewhere. Retourner is the same idea, but revenir is to come back. So let's use the subject of nous. So nous, we have to then go up and say, okay, for nous, our être auxiliary is sommes. So we write down nous sommes. And then we take a look back at our verb revenir. We say, okay, revenu is what it turns into. But I know that for sure, let's say that these are going to be a masculine group here. I know that for sure it's plural, so I have to also add an S onto the end. Okay, so nous sommes revenus. We came back yesterday. Okay. Mourir is a tricky one. Let's use il for those. Okay, il, and then we have to just go back and say, okay, our être auxiliary is for il pluriel is sont. Ils sont, so we have to write that in there first. Ils sont. And we look at mourir and say, okay, mourir turns into mort. So we're going to write here mort. And then we know that for sure we have a masculine group of people. So, but they're plural because they have an S on the end here too. So we have to definitely add that S onto the end of mort as well. So, ils sont morts, okay? Ils sont morts hier, ils sont morts en 1941, stuff like that, okay? Venir. Venir is to come. So, for example, you can say, oh, I came home an hour ago, something like that, okay? So let's use je. So I'm going to use it from my perspective, okay? So je, we go back up here and I say, okay, je, our être auxiliary here is suis, so I have to write that next. Je suis. And then I look at venir and I say, oh, that turns into venu. And I'm a girl, I identify as a girl, so I have to add on to the female I at the end there, okay? So je suis venue après une heure, okay? Then naître is the last one that we'll use here, and we can use the plural of vous. And let's say vous is going to be let's say we're talking about female twins, okay? Female twins. So vous, we're going to then go back up here and say, okay, vous êtes is our être auxiliary, so we have to write in être before we continue with anything else. So vous êtes, and then we look at naître. Naître turns into né. So we write that in here, and we know, okay, we've got two females. So we have to have an extra E and an extra S because it's plural. Okay, so you can say, vous êtes né en mars, okay, in March, something like that. All right, I hope this is helpful for you. Let's move on to present tense. Okay, so we just finished off with passé composé. Let's take a look at présent now. Sorry, I've switched off my the orientation of my screen, so it'll be easier to see this way and a video layout. So présent, let's review this as well. So for present tense, again, we're going to have our same subject area. So remember our structure, let's write this down in red as well, is our subject plus our verb with new endings, okay? With new endings. That's it. Present tense only has one verb that's involved. So when we have our subjects, let's go through these again. So je, tu, oh, actually, never mind. What we're going to do is write down our ER endings, IR, and RE. And then on the side here, we'll put our subjects. Je, tu, il/L, nous, vous, and il and L pluriel. Okay? So remember, these endings come in coordination with each of these subjects, okay, for the different verbs that we have. And again, these are regular verb endings, okay? So for endings, we have here, je for ER turns into E, ES, E, ONS, EZ, ENT. IR is IS, IS, IT. We have ISS, ONS. Don't forget the double S's there. ISSEZ, same here, and same for the next one. ISSENT, okay? You can't have the taking off of the IR and just the ENT because then it means that there was a different verb ending. So for all of these verbs and for present tense, you take off the ER and you replace with these ones. Take off the IR, replace with these ones. Take off the RE and we'll replace with the ones to follow, okay? For RE, we have je is ending with an S, and then nothing. So don't put the 0 there. It's just nothing. There's nothing there, okay? So leave that blank. There isn't actually anything that comes after that. So for a verb like vendre, it just becomes vend, V-E-N-D, that's it. Take off the R-E, nothing else goes in the place, okay? Then nous is O-N-S again, vous is E-Z, and il and L pluriel is E-N-T, okay? So let's do some example verbs. So for example, let's use again parler. If we're talking about, let's say, he is speaking. Il, and then we'll write our full verb here, parler. So we know that it doesn't stay like that. We have to remove the ER. So that's going to go away. And we replace it with what we see here for being the ending for ER verbs for il. We look and say, oh, okay, it's an E, so we're just going to add an extra E onto the end of part. So il part, okay? And it'd be the same thing with, let's say we're doing they are talking. Okay, same idea. Write out the full verb first, realize we have to take off the ER ending, so we erase those. We replace it with what we see is going to be the ending for E for il and elle, pluriel. We look here, okay, ENT, so that's what I'm going to add to the end. Il parle. Okay? For an IR verb, for example, let's use the verb finir again, a very common one to use. So let's start with nous. We finish our exam. Okay, so we have finir. So we know that we have to take off the IR, so we erase those guys. And then we go back and we say, okay, so for nous, we have nous here. We got to find nous in our chart here. Nous is over here. We come across with IR verbs. Ils sont is what we have to add to the end. So we add ISSONS. We have to add the I and the SS at the end too, okay? So nous finissons, we finish our exam. Let's say a bunch of us finish an exam together. We finish our exam. Let's take a look at tu. If we're saying tu finis, you are finishing something. So we know that the IR has to come off. So we take off the IR and we go back to tu here and we say, okay, tu is here. We come across my IR. The endings are IS. So I have to write in an IS at the end. Okay, so tu finis ton examen or ton quiz. Okay. So tu finis ton examen, tu finis ton quiz, tu finis ton projet, anything like that. So you finish something. Okay. And then for RE verbs, let's use the example of elle so that we can solidify what exactly that means here. So elle, and let's use vendre. Elle vendre. So again, we know that the RE is coming off. We erase the RE. And we take a look at where elle is here in our ending. So we say, okay, elle, we come all the way across to RE, and there's nothing there. So we actually just leave it blank like that. So we just take off the RE and that's it. So elle vend, she sells her iPhone. Okay? And if we use vous, I'll say you sell something, you plural. Again, write out the full verb first. Then you know, okay, the ending has to come off, the RE has to be erased. And we take a look here, and we find vous here at the end, and we come all the way across to RE and say, okay, the ending is EZ. So I have to add an EZ to the end. So vous vendez. Okay, so this is present tense. Let's take a look at some irregular verbs that we'll find in present tense. Okay, so avoir, again, is a big one. Être is a big one. Aller and faire. So these are our four most common. Let's take a look at these guys first. So for avoir, again, these are our same endings that we knew for passé composé. So same idea. So j'ai, actually, let's write the subjects down here. Oops. Let's write our subjects down on the side so that's easier as we go across. We have je, or in our case, it's going to be j'ai, but that's okay. Tu, il and elle, nous, vous, il and elle. The tricky thing with present tense is that every ending for every subject changes. So it's not just one generic ending. You have to just pay attention to the endings that you've got to deal with. So, but that's okay. We can do that. And we have been doing it so far, so that's great. So tu as, we already know this from passé composé. Okay. Avec and on. Okay. Être, we have je suis. Tu es. Il en elle est. Nous sommes. Vous êtes. And il and elle sont. Okay. Aller, we have je vais. Tu vas. Il and elle va. Nous allons. Vous allez. And il and elle vont. And then faire, we have je fais. Tu fais, kind of the same IR endings, but a little different. Fait. Vous faisons. Sorry, nous faisons. Vous faites. And il and elle font. Okay? So those are those most common four verbs there that are part of the irregular verbs. So I'll highlight these ones so you don't lose them. For prendre. Prendre follows the same structure except for the last few. So you have prenons, prenez, and then prenne. We can write those down too for you. So that's prendre and devoir are going to be different as well. So let's look at devoir. Mettre is a little bit different too, but it's not a super common verb especially for present tense. So let's just take a look at prendre and devoir. So prendre. Again, this is going to follow for the most part the endings for RE, for prendre at the very least. Again, let's write down our subjects on the side here so it's easier to keep track. Nous, vous, and il/elle pluriel. Okay? So prendre turns into je prends. So again, same usual RE endings, okay, for the first half. Tu prends, and then il and elle is just regular prend. But then once we get to nous, we have prenons. So double N-O-N-S. Vous prenez. And il and elle prennent. Okay, so it's a little bit different there. And then devoir is different as well. So we have je dois. Again, kind of follows on IR, but kind of doesn't at the same time. Tu dois. Il and elle doit. Nous devons. So that's very different. Vous devez. And il and elle doivent. Okay, so that's your layout and reminder of what present tense looks like, okay? Excellent. And for our third and final tense that we've learned this year, I can't believe we've already learned all of these things in just our short time span and with online learning as well, crazy, is Futur Simple. So let's take a look at our structure again. So we have a subject as per usual, so je, tu, il, elle, those things are always going to go first before the verb. Plus, we have the infinitive verb or the root for our irregulars with endings. Okay, so they're not new endings. You keep the original verb in there. You just add some additional endings. So what are these endings, we ask ourselves. So let's again write our subjects down. Je, tu, il, elle, and we can include on here too. Nous, vous, and then il and elle. Okay, so what are these endings? They are similar to avoir in what we add on to the end here. So we are going to add on to the end AI. Okay, I won't put the plus there because that might be confusing. Add on to the end AS. Add on to the end A. Add on to the end ONS. Add on to the end EZ. Add on to the end ONT. Okay, so again, really similar to avoir conjugations. That seems to be a good starting point for a lot of our verbs, with the exception of nous and vous, which are a little bit different, which sort of just keep their endings the same. So not the full verb, but just the endings to the verbs. So what does this actually look like? Let's do some examples. So we have, for example, let's say I will talk to somebody. So remember, future simple means I will do something. I will blah, 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 blah. Okay? So when you're conjugating, again, don't put in a translating device. You shouldn't even be using them to begin with. But don't put in translating device I will, because it'll give you something like je volonté, which is very different. That's like the will to do something, the want to do something. And that's not what you want to have in your exams. So I will do something. So it always wants to be followed by the verb. So don't word for word translate the word for will, because it'll give you volonté, and that's not correct. Okay, you will lose marks for that. So, for example, we have here, let's say I will talk to Miss Vaduva. Okay, I think we've used this example before in the previous future sample videos. So we have je parler. So we write down that full verb as per our instruction. Full verb, full infinitive or root. And then we add on that ending. So je parlerai. Okay, it turns into that. So you have the full infinitive verb plus the ending. Okay? So you got it all in there. You have to have both of them. Okay, it doesn't work to just have one. You have to have both. Let's say I'm going to talk to somebody else. I'm going to say, tu parleras avec Mr. Kardash. You are going to talk to Mr. Kardash in a few moments when you go up to see him. Okay. Tu parler. So we write down our infinitive verb again. And we write down our new endings. For tu, we see that, okay, in tu here we have as is going to be at the end. So we have to add the as at the end. Okay. Oh. Then let's say we're going to use a different verb this time. And let's use an IR verb. So let's say she will finish her exam early. Elle finir. We know finir is a verb for finish. We have to look back here and say, okay, for elle, we have to add an a onto the end to make it future tense. So she will finish. Elle finira son examen. Okay. Demain, for example. So again, this is talking about future moments. All right. Then we move on to the next one here. Let's use the example of the verb choisir. So we will choose to do something. Okay, so choisir is our verb. We know that for nous, we have to go here and we've got to add the O and S onto the end of the verb to make it futur simple. Okay, so nous choisirons. We will choose tomorrow what we're going to do. Nous choisirons demain qu'est-ce qu'on veut faire. Okay? Qu'est-ce qu'on veut faire? So then let's go move to the RE verbs. Remember for RE verbs, you actually have to take off the E and then add the endings. So let's take a look at vous for that. I'm going to put this in a different color so that you can see the separation. So vous, let's look at the word comprendre. Okay. So comprendre, write out the full verb to understand. Then what you're going to do is take off the E. So erase the E. And then go back and look at your endings and say, okay, I have to add, for vous, I have to add an EZ onto the end. So, vous comprendrez. Okay? So in that case, we actually could have kept the E on and just added the Z. But I'm just trying to show you the steps all the way through. Okay? And then the same thing for il, pluriel. Let's use the verb, pendre again. So to hang something. So they will hang the flowers once they get them tomorrow. Okay. So il pendre. So again, take off the E. And we take a look at here. We say, okay, for il pluriel, we have the ending of ONT. So I have to go back to this verb and I have to add ONT onto the end. So ils prendront. Okay. That becomes your new verb. Okay, so these are the regular stems and the regular roots for regular verb conjugations for futur simple. When we have irregular verbs, let's go through these as well. So irregular roots, okay? So remember, these are just the roots for verbs. The endings stay the same for je, tu, il, and elle. They only change for present tense where they are dependent per the subject in terms of figuring out the verb endings there, okay? So for irregular roots, again, let's take a look at our most common irregular verbs. So we have aller, être, faire, aller, avoir, apprendre, devoir, and let's actually use voir this time because when we talk about things that we are going to see, that can be important there to conjugate as well. So aller turns into IR, and then you put the endings on afterwards. So for example, we have j'irai, okay? And I use that example to show you that anytime you have a vowel right beside the je, you have to take off the E and replace it with the apostrophe. Okay, so j'irai, I will go to the CN Tower once COVID is over. Okay, être turns into serai. Okay, so je serai. So I will be on an airplane hopefully the next year. Okay, so I will be a teacher. I will be a doctor, stuff like that. Okay, faire is faire. So 2 R's for this one. So again, je ferai. So I will make a cake tomorrow. Okay, avoir is or. So again, j'aurai, un iPhone demain. I will have an iPhone tomorrow. Okay. Prendre keeps its same route, the same root, but again, you have to just take off the E at the end there. So prendra, prendrai, prendront, those are the same verbs there. So I can use je prendrai again. I will take a test tomorrow. Je prendrai un quiz demain. Okay? Devoir is a little bit different here. It's devre, sort of, to pronounce just the root there. So when we have here je devrais, so I will have to look after my sibling tomorrow. Je devrais être avec mon ami or être avec mon soeur demain. And then voir is ver. Okay, so je verrai, I will see the Egyptian pyramids once COVID is over. Okay, so this has been your review for Futur Simple. Okay, and I hope you've enjoyed this entire review. I hope it's really helpful for you. I'll put this document on Google Classroom as well, so you have access to it all and can look through the lessons again that way as well. Take care, everyone. Good luck on exam writing. Let me know if you need any help as well. Okay.